Hello guys, Analamic here, and today we are going to be finishing. This is going to be the last chapter of The Tale of Emily Windsnap. So please be sure to give this a like and please press the red subscription button, please. It would mean the world to me. Please join the wolf pack. Now let's get started on the final chapter. Chapter 16. No one spoke for the first few minutes. Then, gradually, everyone started whispering to each other, like the doctors when you have to act like it's a crime to talk. Maybe it was a crime here. Everything else was, it seemed. I returned to my seat and looked up nervously to see if I could catch Mom's eye. She was sitting with her head in her hands. Was she mad at me? We sat like that for ages, the court almost silent while we waited. Some people left, a few took out lunch boxes and munched on seaweed sandwiches. Then the gates at the front of the court opened. Neptune was coming back in. Everyone leaped up. Neptune waved us down impatiently with his trident. He waited for the court to be absolutely silent before he spoke. Emily Windsnap. He looked at me, indicated sharply for me to get up. I flicked my tail and stood up straight as possible. He looked at Mom and pointed upward again. Mary Penelope Windsnap, he read from the card in front of him, and Mom stood up. You have both defied me and my laws. I swallowed hard. My kingdom has held by these laws very well for many generations. I invented them. You abide by them. That's how it works. I tried to get used to the idea of living in a cell with a bed of seaweed and limpets on the wall. Do you dare say I'm wrong? He continued, his voice raising with every word. Do you think you know better than me? You do not! He leaned forward to stare at me. What would I get? 10 years, 20, life? He paused for ages. When he spoke again, a gentleness had fought its way into his voice. He spoke so quietly, I had to hold my breath to hear him. However, he said, then stopped. He stroked his beard. However, he repeated, you have touched on something today, something beyond laws. His voice softened even more. And therefore, beyond punishment. I held my breath as he paused, tapping the side of his trident. You will both be released, he boomed eventually. A gasp went through the court, followed by a stream of murmuring. Neptune lifted his trident and glared around the room. The chattering stopped instantly. You defied my laws, he went on. But why? Shall I pretend I do not understand, or that I have never felt that way? No, I am not a hypocrite, and I shall not punish you for love. I shall not. Mrs. Windsnap. He turned to Mom, a long, deep sigh, his breath rumbling out from his throat. Then, your husband is also to be released. Another gasp wheezed through the court. On one condition, he continued, the three of you will join a community on an island with a secret location. This will be your home from now on. If you will break this condition, you will be punished most severely. Do you understand? He stared at us both. I nodded vigorously. Had I heard right? Was I really going to see my dad again? The gold-jacketed merman suddenly rose from his seat. Your Majesty, forgive me, he said, bowing. But the other merchild, there could be trouble if... Just get them all out from under my tail, Neptune barked. She can join them, for all I care. Discuss it with her parents. Either that or a memory wipe. Very well, your Majesty, he said, sat down again. Neptune scanned the court. And perhaps you can all tell your kinfolk that your king is not only a firm ruler, but a just and compassionate one. His eyes landed on me. One who will no longer punish folk merely for loving. Then he got up from his throne and banged his trident on the floor. Case closed, he bellowed, and left the court. It all happened so quickly after that. The room erupted in noise. People were clapping and cheering, other gossiping among themselves. A few came over to the dock to shake my hand. Can I go now? I asked the guard. He nodded curtly and pointed to the exit as he undid my handcuffs. Outside the court, a mermaid with her hair in a bun took my hand. Your mom will be escorted separately. She'll meet you in a bit, she said. Let's get you out of here. Who are... I began. But she turned around and was pulling me toward a boat that looked like a cross between a limousine and a submarine. It was a long, white, with golden handles on the door. A crowd was waiting by the limo boat. Emily, can you... Sorry. Emily, can you tell me how you feel? One of them asked, a black reed poised above her notebook. I recognized her as one of the reporters from the court. Emily doesn't want to talk at the moment, the mermaid said. She has to. I feel great, I said. I just can't wait to see my mom and dad together. Thanks, Emily, the reporter scribbled furiously as I was bundled into the boat. There was someone else inside. Shona! Emily! We hugged each other and tight. We're going to an island, I said. My dad's coming. Seatbelts, the mermaid instructed from the driver's seat. Then we were shot forward like a bullet. As we sped through the water, I told Shona everything that had happened, and they said, you might be able to come too, I finished up. I didn't mention the other option. Surely her parents would agree. Swishy, Shona laughed. Going up, the mermaid called from the front as we tipped forward, gradually climbing until we came to a standstill. Then she opened a door to the ceiling. Your stop, she said to me, holding on to her hand. I shook it, feeling rather stupid. Good luck, Emily. You're a brave girl. See you soon, Shona said. She giggled and we hugged each other before I climbed out. I stood on top of the boat. Blinking in the daylight, I tried to adjust to the scene. King was moored just in front of me. A group of mermen waited in the water in front of me, holding on to two thick ropes. Mom was leaning over the side, reaching down to someone in the sea. She was holding his hands. I stood on tiptoe to see I so I could see who it was for a moment. I thought I must be imagining things. It couldn't have happened this quickly, surely. A mop of black hair sticking up where it was wet, a pair of deep brown eyes. Then he noticed me, and then the dimple below his left eye deepened as he let go of Mom's hand and swam towards me. Dad! Without thinking, I jumped into the sea and into his arms. My little gem, he whispered as he hugged me tight. Then he took my hand and we swam back to the side of the boat again. Mom reached down with both of arms and we held each other's hands. A circle, a family. A second later, a series of splashes and sounding exploded behind us. A bunch of reporters were heading our way. Mr. Windsnap, one of them shoved a microphone shaped like a huge mushroom into my dad's face. Simon Watermark, Radio Morwave, your story has melted Neptune's heart. How does it feel to have made history? Made history, Dad laughed. At the moment, my only feelings about history are that I want to go back 12 years and catch up with my wife and daughter. The reporter turned to Mom. Mrs. Windsnap, is it true that your babysitter helped with your plans? Then that was when I noticed Millie sitting on a plastic chair in the front of the boat. One of the mermen was perched on the deck opposite her, his tail dangling on the side. The pair of them frowning at a pack of tarot cards spread out between them. We couldn't have done it without her, Mom said. The reporter turned to me. Emily, you were a brave girl to do what you did. You must have had some special help along the way. Is there someone you'd like to say a special thank you to? Well, I'd like to thank my mom for being so understanding. I'd like to thank my dad for believing in us. He kissed my cheek. And Millie for falling asleep at the right time. And the reporter laughed. And I'd like to thank Shona, my best friend. I could never have done this without her. But out of the corner of the eye, I saw a familiar figure. Mer people were talking and laughing in groups all around us, but he was on his own. He looked up and smiled shaky, crooked smile at me. His head tilted in a way that almost looked like an apology. And I forgave him. Almost. There was just one thing he could do for me first. He he jumped a little as I swam over to him. I whispered my favor in his ear. A mass memory wipe, he blurted out. That's ridiculous, not to mention dangerous. Please, Mr. Beeston, I begged. Think about all the nice things I said in there. After everything that happened, I should hate you forever, but I won't. Not if you do this little thing for me. He looked at me hard. What did he see? A girl he'd known all his life? Someone he perhaps cared about, just a tiny little bit. Very well, he said eventually. I'll do it. I kept my head down as we stood by the side of the pool. Everyone around me chatted in groups. Julia was with Mandy, giggling together in the corner. Fine, I didn't need Julia. I had Shona, and no one else could be a better best friend than her. My heart thumped in my ears, blocking out everything else. Bob arrived. I stepped forward, put my hand up. Please, sir, I'd like to show you something. Bob frowned. I've been practicing. He waved a hand out. All right, then, he said, with a half smile. Let's have it. Oh, I see what's going on. I stepped toward the edge of the pool. Look at Fish Girl, Mandy sneered from the corner of her eye. Sneered from the corner. Showing off again. That's right, I said, looking her right in the eye. Fish Girl is showing off. I glanced up to the window, too high I couldn't see outside, but I knew he'd be there. He promised. I had 5 minutes. 5 minutes to be proud instead of scared. 5 minutes to be free to be myself. But mostly, I had 5 minutes to give Mandy Rushton the biggest shock of her life. And so I dove in, piercing the surface as gently as I could. I swam underwater all the way to the opposite end of the pool. Big deal, Mandy sorted. So Fish Girl can do a length underwater. Whoop-de-doo. As she mocked me, something was happening under the water. My tail was starting to form. This familiar feeling filled me with confidence. This was it. I dove straight down, then flicked my tail up in the air. Spinning around and around under the water, I could feel my tail swishing and dancing faster and faster. I couldn't wait to see Mandy's face. I swam up to the surface, wiped my hair off my face, and looked around. 30 open mouths, total silence. If they'd played musical statues, it would have been a dead heat. Mandy was the first to step forward. But, she sputtered. But that's a. How did you? I laughed. Hey, guess what, Mandy? I'm not scared of you. I don't care what you call me. You can't stop me being who I am. And you don't get to bully me anymore because I'm leaving. I'm off to a desert island with a whole bunch of. A loud rap on the door stopped me saying any more. Bob walked over in a daze. Mr. Beeston right on time. He spoke quietly to Bob. Of course, Bob said, his voice flat and mechanical. I'd forgotten. Come on in. He turned to class. Folks, we have a visitor today. He's come to give us a special talk. Mr. Beeston stood in front of the class, a large bag in his hand. Now then, children, he said, listen carefully. I'm going to teach you about lighthouses and the danger of the sea. He opened the bag, but before we start, let's have a donut. I slipped quickly out of the pool as Mr. Beeston held everyone's attention. It was almost as if if I'd been forgotten. I would be soon. Thank you, I mouthed as I passed behind the class. He nodded solemnly in reply. I crept away from the pool, changed quickly, and slipped outside. Looking back at the building, I smiled. Goodbye, 7C, I whispered. Then I turned and walked away. We left that night, Mom, Dad, and me, off to a whole new world where who knew what was waiting for us. All I knew for sure was that my life as a mermaid had only just begun. But remember, it's just between you and me. And that is the end of the Tale of Emily Windsnap. Thank you so much for listening again. Please keep in mind that there are links down below in the description, including my Patreon and my Instagram and all of my socials. Please hit the subscribe button and the like button. And yeah, thank you so much for enjoying this series. I really enjoyed seeing how much you guys loved it, and I will be reading more books in the future, including more Emily Windsnap books. But the next book I will be reading will be Kill Me Softly. And then the next book after that will be Six of Crows. So I hope you enjoy. Thank you so much. See you next time. And now let me out. Peace.